we construct two important index. What index? Price index. One at the consumer level, and the other at the wholesale level. We calculate the price index, one at the consumer level and the one at the wholesale level. The price index which we construct at the consumer level is what is called as CPI, consumer price index. At the wholesale level it is wholesale price index. So we call this consumer price index as retail inflation. So retail inflation is consumer price index. Wholesale price index we call it as wholesale inflation. When you read the newspaper, now we very clear with that. So we have generally two types of inflation index or price index, that is consumer price index and wholesale price index. Now every price index will be having a base year. Now from your examination point of view, this is, even though it is a fact, but it's important. Now for consumer price index, the present base year is 2012. Factual, important. Consumer price index base year is year 2012, and wholesale price index, the base year is 2004-05. It's a very old year. The government will revise it soon. There's a criticism that in relation to wholesale price index, the government have not revised this base year for quite a long time. So maybe very soon, after this headache of demonetization is get over, maybe the government will change the base year of wholesale price index. So every price index is constructed based on a base year. We discussed that. Now in our case, there are two common price indexes there. One is wholesale price index and other is consumer price index. For consumer price index, the government have recently updated the price index, for that is 2012, but for wholesale price index they are not done it, it's still 2004-05. Now few things, I told you UPSC like twins, yes or no? We discussed that. UPSC like twins, and once UPSC asks question, what they do? They change the features. Now once you know that this is the feature of this one, you can easily answer it. So one is in relation to, are you clear with this concept? One, we are calculating price index at the consumer level or retail level. Here we are calculating price index at the wholesale level. Now the major difference of consumer price index and wholesale price index is, which is very, very, very important, is at the consumer price level, both goods and services are measured. Price index of goods and services are there. Where? At the consumer price level. But at the wholesale level or for the wholesale price index, only goods are there. It's a very, very important point. So one of the criticism of wholesale price index is that it is not considering the value of prices. Service price index is not considered in wholesale price index, but in consumer price index, both goods and services considered. It's a very important point to be noted. Okay. Now, other thing is that regarding the base year itself, one is base year is calculated in relation to financial year. 2004-05 you say financial year, that is from 2004 April to March 2050. See, normally in many of the year which we see, when you take all the important years, take budget, take balance of payment, everything, take GDP, everything we calculate in relation to financial year. But only one index or one important criteria which we don't use it through financial year, rather a normal year, is consumer price index. So that's a very important point to be noted down. Consumer price index is constructed not during the financial year time period, it is a normal year. It's a normal year. That is, so 2012 means from January to December. January to, only for consumer price index, So, and for it, when you see the newspaper, to identify it as a base year, they will do like this. They will put like this, equals to 100. If you see something equals to 100, that year is the base year for that index. So, when the news related with wholesale price index will come, they will be writing like this, 2004-5 equals to 100. What is that? It is showing you that 2004-5 is the base year. Just have an idea regarding that. So this is the most important point. Goods and services included while constructing consumer price index. Goods only included while constructing wholesale price index. Now I'll tell you. So there is in the basket of commodities. Service is not there under wholesale price index, but goods and services included under consumer price index. Now try to understand, this index is constructed based on a basket of goods, and for consumer price index it includes goods and services. Now every item the agency which calculate this index, they have to give weightage to certain products. Now at the wholesale level, what the agency do is, they take the 2004 year, see whichever is the base year, they see the wholesale transaction for. So in order to give weightage to the wholesale price index, what is the base year of wholesale price index? 2004-5. Now what, they'll take the wholesale transactions of 2004-5, and if imagine that the wholesale transaction is 1 crore, and if the 65 lakh out of 1 crore, if 65 lakh transaction happened in relation to manufactured products, then they will assign 65% weightage to manufactured products. So basically there are three major components under wholesale price index. One is manufactured products, then fuel and related item, third is primary article. It's there in the material, just note down and write it important. Page number page number 2. In page number 2, have you seen that wholesale price index? That there is a box is there, write that in that box important, right? Important in that box. See the weightage of manufactured products. Manufactured products weightage is 65, fuel and power 14.9, primary articles 20.1. Add the 3, how much you get? It is 100, right? So these are the three major components of wholesale price index, and the highest weightage is given to what? Manufactured products. So manufactured products inflation will have, means how the manufactured products price will have an influence over wholesale price index. Now if you notice one thing, then after that I have given all food. See, food items are there at 2 level. Under fuel and power there is no food items, but under primary articles there are food articles are there. Under manufactured products there are food products are there, like packed biscuit will come under manufactured products, and the rice, wheat items will come under primary articles. So under primary articles, under manufactured products, at both the places food items are there. So we take all the food items from both and given a common weightage from both the, that is, so food items weightage under wholesale price index is 24.3. Why? Some items are there in the primary articles, some items are there in the manufactured products. Just have an idea. So we talk about food inflation. Food inflation means the food, how the food items in the particular index have moved. So if there is high rate, sometimes what will happen is in relation to wholesale price index. In the wholesale price index, food inflation under the wholesale price index may be high, but the overall wholesale price index will be low. Why? if the manufactured product price, if the fuel price, manufactured product price is low, then the food items weightage is only around 25%. So it will not give you a correct picture. Regarding food inflation, wholesale price index will not give you a correct picture. Why? The food items weightage is comparatively lesser. Now what has happened? In the last 2 years, or we had a deflationary trend. Now be very clear, I am just correlating it. For almost 18 months, for wholesale price index, we had seen a deflationary trend. What does it mean? Wholesale price index was in negative. Even though most of the food items inflation was high. Now you tell me from this index, what might have been the reason for wholesale price index to be in negative? One was, during that time, you might have seen that the oil prices have gone down like anything. From $100 a barrel, it has reached to $20 like that. So fuel prices have come down. Due to low demand, manufactured product price also have come down, or it remained stable. Only food items got a slight increase. So that has resulted in the overall inflation of calculated through wholesale price index have come down, but now things have changed. Now it is in positive territory. But I am telling that in India, deflation have happened not in consumer price index. In consumer price index, we have never seen any deflationary trend. Very rarely seen. In the recent years also, nothing has happened in relation to consumer price. But at the wholesale price index level, we had seen a deflationary trend due to these factors. One is the weightage given to certain items. Okay, so be very clear. So when you hear the term food inflation, it is, see, we don't have any separate food inflation index, but within these two index, we have created a food inflation. Food items have been taken and weightage has been given, and they give a food inflation rate. So the food index weightage under wholesale price index is somewhere around 24%. So just have an idea. So it's not the value, you need to compare it with, you need to know the food items weightage in consumer price index, which we will discuss. Now for wholesale price index, what is important for you is, you need to know the overall weightage of wholesale price. And most important thing for you is, have an idea that manufactured product constitute 65% of wholesale price index. Food items, it's somewhere near to 24%, and items are from primary articles and manufactured product. That knowledge is sufficient. And one more important, factually important information is that who releases the data for wholesale price index? It is Department of Industrial Policy and Formulation under the Ministry of Commerce and Industry. They release the data. DIPP releases, it's there, the authority responsible for compilation and release, Office of the Economic Advisor, Department of Industrial Policy and Promotion, releases the data of wholesale price index, because they are already asked in relation to some other index. So just have an idea who releases the data related with wholesale price index. It is DIPP. Now when it comes to consumer price index, now if you see the service for a consumer, it's not only food items, he have to pay hospital related expenses, education related expenses. What is this education and health related expenses? Are they goods? No, they are services. And health and education is a major component. It's a major component under consumer price index, because it is a services, which is not there under wholesale, because no services are there under wholesale price indexes. Okay, now here in relation to consumer price index, earlier we used to have lot of separate. See, now do you think that all the consumer in India is the same? No. The rural consumer will be different from urban consumer. Rural consumer, his consumption will be different from urban consumer consumption. So there are different types of consumer used to be there: industrial worker, rural worker, agriculture labor, urban non-manual employee, like that. Because their consumption pattern is different and the government used to construct different index for them. Now things have changed. Now for time being, try to understand that wholesale price index is calculated based on wholesale transactions. The weightage is given based on the wholesale transactions. Now imagine that the government is going to revise. I told you the government will revise the base year. Now once they change the base year to suppose to 2009 or 2010 or 11 or 12, what they will do? They will look into that financial year wholesale transaction. So during that financial year, if there is any change in the manufactured product transaction, the weightage will also change. Getting the point? But at the consumer level, it is not any transaction, it is the consumption pattern. So how through which method we can know the consumption pattern? Through government, through central statistics organization, conduct at a regular interval what is a survey, what is called as consumption expenditure survey. It's very important. Consumption expenditure survey. What is this survey? People will go to houses and will ask them a question. They will have a list of questions. How many members are there? What is your income? How much money you spent? What are products you like that? Sets there. People go to they will not go to every houses. They will go for as a sample. They go, and based on this consumption expenditure survey, they will understand that okay, out of their family particular income, food constitute their major expenditure. Food constitute this much of the expenditure. So under consumer price index, food constitute a major item. So it is again been given. So be very clear. It is consumer price index is constructed based on this survey. What survey? Consumption expenditure survey, which is conducted by Central Statistics Organization. Now page number 3, there is a box. Generally, just few things. See, what you be very clear is regarding the consumer price index, just have an idea what is the weightage of food items in consumer price index. That is, food items is having much higher weightage. If you see, somewhere around 40 to 43% of the weightage in consumer expenditure survey is for what? Is for what? Food items. Now you tell me, generally if there is an increase in the food items, which index will show higher higher rate? Consumer price index or wholesale price index? It is obvious. So when there is increase in food inflation, consumer price index will be having higher rate compared to wholesale price index. Reason? Weightage for food items is different. For consumer price index, food items weightage is more than 40%. For wholesale price index, food items weightage is less than 20. So only this, see, you need not to know the entire data. Just have an idea in relation to wholesale price index. Consumer price index is having, this information is very important. Because what the UPSC will do? They will change. They say that wholesale price index is having more weight. In wholesale price index, more weightage is being given to food items comparing to consumer. So like they will confuse you. But if you are clear, consumer, for a consumer, its major expenditure is food item. Obviously under consumer price index, food items weightage is high. Similarly for fuel items, just have an idea, for fuel, consumer price index is having lesser weightage compared to whole. These two key points you have an idea. Just have an idea, these two key things. Then other thing is regarding goods and services and how it is calculated. It is based on consumption expenditure survey. Now the data which is given is in relation to the new consumer price index. Earlier I told you there were consumer price index for industrial worker. There are consumer price index for urban non-manual employee. Now it is not there. It is subsumed with consumer price index for industrial worker. It's there in the material. You just go through it. Then there used to be a consumer price index for agricultural labor and rural worker. Now instead of that, now the government, since it is not giving a correct picture of the entire consumer, the government in 2012 have come up with a new price index in relation to consumer price index, what is called as, now we have like this, consumer price index rural. What is this consumer price index rural? For the entire rural area of the country. Then consumer price index urban. Consumer price index urban, and if you add these two, we get consumer price index combined, that is rural area and urban area, that is the entire nation. So the consumer price index which we are discussing now is consumer price, and the data which has been released by the RBI is what? Consumer price index combined. So we see that is technical, but have an idea. CSO calculates CPI rural, CPI urban, and then they add and come with consumer price index combined, that is the retail inflation, which is coming in the newspaper every monthly. The retail inflation or the consumer price index data which the CSO releases is in relation to, actually what it is consumer price index combined, consumer price index combined. So this, be very clear with the consumer price index combined and the base year, which is compared to other year they are different. It's a normal year, 2012 is the base year for consumer price index. So very clear with this consumer price index, and now what you need to do is just follow it up in relation to the news related with the consumer price index and retail influence and the editorial which will be coming in the newspaper regularly. Now here in relation to these two data, in relation to wholesale price index and consumer price index, there used to be a divergence. There used to be a divergence in inflation rate in relation to consumer price index and wholesale price index, and you know the reason. Why? One reason is there is a big difference in the base year itself. One is 2004-05, other is 2012. Second is, one is not having services. Third is the weightage for food items. So these are the three main reason for consumer price index and wholesale price index having a divergence. Divergence means normally what happens is the data, the consumer price index inflation rate and wholesale price index inflation rate will be different. There will be consumer price index will be more than wholesale price index, and in India it has happened that gap used to be 3 to 4% or more than that, mainly when there used to be high food inflation. Okay, just have an idea. See, if a question has been asked in relation to the reason for divergence of consumer price index data and wholesale price index data, is main three reasons are the difference in the base year. It's a big difference is there, price level difference is there. Second is service is not considered under wholesale price index. Third is in relation to food items weightage. Okay, now I told you this data related with who releases a particular data. So that is important. In relation to consumer, see, even though now officially as per the newspaper releases only, we call this term, see there is a term what is called as headline inflation. Very simple concept. Headline, who gives you headlines? Newspaper. So the data, the inflation which is coming in the newspaper is headline inflation. So what all newspaper inflation data comes in the newspaper? It is consumer price index combined and wholesale price index combined. Nothing else data they releases as an headline news. So headline inflation data is basically these two. Then the subcategory like CPI rural, CPI urban, CPI IW, or they are inflation data, but they are not headline inflation data. Headline inflation, which is major news, and keep this in mind, very important point, that earlier RBI, while controlling inflation, looks into wholesale price index data earlier. Now RBI, while looking into or while to control inflation, they don't look into what is the wholesale price index data. They will only look into what data? the consumer price. It's a very important point. RBI, while controlling inflation, looks into consumer price index data only. And this will be repeatedly mentioned. Already there is a concept which we will be discussing, what is called as inflation targeting. There is a concept what is called as inflation targeting. And already it has come in the newspaper. What is this inflation targeting? RBI will set a target for a particular year. For this year, this is my inflation target. And to achieve that target, RBI will perform so many operations. Mainly, what all operation we have discussed under quantitative and qualitative measures, mainly quantitative measures under credit control method. Okay, and the RBI have set a target for March 2017. Do you know what is that inflation target for March 2017? Already, anybody who read in the newspaper, what is that? 5%. What is that 5% inflation data? Which data it is? Wholesale price index or consumer price index? It is consumer price index. It is consumer price index. So RBI have to, so RBI, if you see RBI is now at least tension free. Why? The present inflation rate and the target is, see that the present inflation rate is lower than the RBI target. Now if it goes beyond, then RBI will do extraordinary things, and that will come as a news. Anyway, just relate, relate your concept which you know and what all news is happening in the newspaper, and then if you are able to understand, then you can easily answer the question coming from economy. So relate in relation to CPI and wholesale price index. So we have discussed all the major inflation related concept, the two major indexes, then the concept called headline inflation. Then there is one more concept, what is called as core inflation. What is that? Core inflation. That also will, that's also important. Again, already I have posted an article related with core inflation. It's again very simple. In both the price index, there will be certain items. Like fuel and food. What is the specialty of, in both the index there are these items are there, yes or no? What is the specialty of these items? They are very volatile. Their prices fluctuates in a quick time. Food items and fuel items prices fluctuate in a quick time. Now you see, till now oil prices were low. Suddenly OPEC made a deal, OPEC and non-OPEC oil producing country made a deal. Now we are expecting there will be a sudden increase in the price level of fuel, and that will have an impact over the inflation index. Similarly, if in a particular season or a particular month a sudden few items supply, or if the crop failure is there, what will happen to those food items? The prices will increase. So in order to ensure that these fluctuating items is not impacting the inflation data, along with the normal inflation data, a separate data is being released, what is called as core inflation. The specialty of core inflation is that they will remove volatile items. And then the rest of the items inflation data will be released. That data is what is called as core inflation. So in core inflation, volatile and fluctuating items will be removed and the rest of the items inflation data will be released. That is what is called as. So a different view also will get. See, normally if in a particular month, mainly due to certain items, suddenly inflation have increased, then everybody will panic. So in order to avoid that, in order to ensure that this is not because of due to certain items, just check the core inflation data. If the core inflation data is also high, then you need to be very careful, because it's not due to a sudden sporadic event of certain items. It is mainly due to this systemic failure, maybe due to demand or supply. So core inflation will also give you an idea. So from your examination point of view, you need to have an idea what is core inflation, what is headline inflation. It's very simple concept, nothing to worry, and if you know it, you can easily answer the question. It's given in the material regarding what is core inflation, and article will come whenever this monthly data will come. Now what is important for you? what is important for you is that after reading today's material, read all the articles which have been posted and then update your study material. And those articles which I have marked it as star is important, and this you have to continue in every month. In see, January data will come of what, which month? January first week, every first week or 5th or 6th, during that time, or 5th, 6th or 7th or 8th, data will be released of previous month, and in that data read all the article. Anyway, I will be posting those articles, and especially the key points. So because see, things will change, every data will be having something distinct feature, and based on that there will be a discussion. If it is a discussion, it's very important for you, and if you know that question will be based on that, you can easily answer the question. A little bit. Now regarding this the official people who releases this data, I told you in relation to wholesale price index, it is Office of Chief Economic Advisor, DIPP, Department of Industrial Policy and Promotion. In relation to consumer price index, industrial worker, see, even though we are not using it as an official figure, still it is used for calculating the dearance allowance. You had said about DR enough, so still it has been used for some certain purpose, like for finding DA for government employees or organized employees. This data is used. So this data is released by Labor Bureau, under Ministry of Labor. Then the other consumer price index, rest of the other consumer price index, that is CPI, rural, urban, combined, industrial worker, or the other people, it is released basically by the other thing, the common consumer price index like combined, it is released by CSO. Just have an idea, because UPSC have asked a question from here. So since UPSC asked a question from here, just have an idea in relation to other people also. It's a 2014 or 15 question. Check that question. 2015 question, question number 2. Now in this question, even though it is a factual question, it's a simple question. Reason being, if you see the choice, if you know that these are the 3 people, even if you have confusion, only one is there in that. They are not troubled you. One is RBI, Department of Economic Affairs, Department of Personnel and Training. All the 3 never releases any data related with inflation. So UPSC asks question like this, but you should have an idea that Labor Bureau releases data, CSO release data, and DIPP release data in relation to inflation. Just have an idea, since already UPSC have asked a question, then you can prepare accordingly. Now, there is another concept, what is called as stagflation. Before discussing stagflation, I will discuss a curve, what is called as Phillips curve. Now just keep an idea, this curve is in relation to inflation. Phillips curve is in relation to a curve in relation to inflation, showing relation between inflation and rate of unemployment. Showing inflation and rate of unemployment, not employment, it is unemployment. It says that when the inflation is high, that is, there will be low unemployment. Low unemployment means when the inflation is high, there will be high employment. So what Phillips says that whenever there is high inflation, the unemployment rate will be low. But this theory or this curve is now rejected, in the sense that this was till 1970s, this curve was accepted, for the reason being, it is like this: when an economy grow, there will be increase in demand, and that results in inflation. When economic growth is there, economic growth results in increase in demand, results in inflation. Economic growth also results in employment opportunities. Economic growth results in, so it like this. So when there is inflation, it's because of economic growth. So naturally, economic growth results in employment. This is the reason why he have come with this concept. But in 1970s, certain phenomena shows that even if there is no economic growth, without economic growth also, inflation can happen, like in India. So, but it for the first time it's happened in 1970s trend, general trend. For the first time, a situation arises that there is high inflation, but the economic growth is low. Economic growth is low. Economic growth is low means unemployment is high. That situation is what is called as, which rejected Phillips curve, is what is called as stagflation. Stagflation talks about two things. Stag means stagnate, stagnation. It's a combined word of stagnation and stagflation is stagnation plus inflation. What is stagnation? Economy stagnating. There is no economic growth. If there is no economic growth, unemployment will be high. But at the same time, there is high inflation also. So it is contracting or contradicting the Phillips curve. Just have an idea. So more than Phillips curve, the concept stagflation is important. What you need to know is, what is stagflation? Stagflation is existence of both the phenomena, that is stagnation and inflation. Okay. There is a question related with inflation and growth. Question number 9. Economic growth is usually coupled with inflation. So when an economic grows, there will be inflation. It's normally like normal trend is like that. So when economic grow means national output increases. Economic growth means there is an increase in the national output. So when there is an increase in the national output, it normally results in inflation. So just have an idea regarding that. Now there is very last topic, which is very important. What is effects of inflation? What is the effect of inflation? See, everything is there in the material. You can read it. But one thing which you may find it difficult, that I will discuss now. What is called as how the inflation, we know that how inflation affects the common man. Now I want to discuss this, how inflation affects the creditor and debtor. This only, it's very important for you.